You've built something, maybe a career, maybe a portfolio, maybe both. You've made good decisions, real ones, where the stakes mattered and you got it right. And yet, financially, you still feel like you're shadowboxing an opponent you can't quite see. You've got enough knowledge to know you're doing something wrong, just not enough clarity to know what. Here's what most people miss. Your problem isn't a lack of insight. You don't need another hot tip, another asset class, another newsletter. Your problem is simpler and more brutal. You keep interrupting the good things you've already built. You make a solid investment, then sell it because the world got noisy. You develop a real skill, then jump to something shiny. You build a relationship, then start auditing it. Compounding doesn't work on interruption. It works on patience, on discipline, on sitting still long enough to let the math do its job. Charlie Munger spent his entire life studying exactly this problem. He watched thousands of investors sabotage themselves, not because they were dumb, but because they wouldn't stop fiddling with the dials. Today, we're going to borrow his playbook. Not theory, not motivational nonsense. Real frameworks from a man who made billions by being ruthlessly selective and then utterly patient. If this lands for you, if you recognize yourself in that shadowboxing description, hit like, drop a comment, subscribe. We're building a community of people who want to think clearly about money instead of just react to noise. Let's go. You're over 40. You've built skills. You've wrestled a few dragons. And yet, financially, you still feel like you're shadowboxing. The culprit isn't your intelligence. It isn't a missing secret asset class. It's something simpler and nastier. You keep interrupting compounding. Compounding is just growth on growth. Interest on interest, profits on reinvested profits. It's the overnight success that took 20 years. But here's the real kick in the shins. Most people don't fail at compounding because they can't find it. They fail because they won't stop breaking it. Today we're going to borrow a playbook from Charlie Munger and build a no-drama system to keep compounding intact, especially relevant once you're 40 plus, when time feels precious and mistakes cost more. This is the kind of framework that separates the people who accidentally get wealthy from the people who stay busy and broke. If you're getting value out of this, as we go, hit like. It helps the algorithm know this landed for people in your boat. Drop a comment with your biggest compounding interrupter. We'll get to examples in a minute. And subscribe. We drop these Munger breakdowns every week. And the algorithm doesn't promote this stuff unless you tell it you want it. Stakes. Interrupting compounding is subtle. It disguises itself as prudence, taking action, or staying informed. Then it eats your future. Munger makes a stark comparison using horse betting. In pari-mutuel systems, the track, there's a house take. Even a skilled bettor who sharpens their edge only reduces their average loss from something like a mid-teens disadvantage to perhaps around 10%. The friction is that punishing. The stock market, Munger notes, is different. Your house handle is much lower if you don't trade too actively. Translation: the market's built-in friction is small. Most of the damage comes from us cranking our own friction sky high with overtrading, fees, and taxes. Think about that for a second. The game is already rigged in your favor if you just don't move too much. Yet the average investor loses that edge entirely, not to bad picks, but to self-inflicted drag. Every trade, every time you listen to a hot tip, every time you rotate sectors because a newsletter scared you, that's you manually re-rigging the game against yourself. And that's the stakes for a 40-plus investor. You no longer have unlimited cycles to recover from self-inflicted drag. You need compounding to stay on the rails, and that means squashing the behaviors that blow up a perfectly good, low-friction game. Here's what most people don't realize. By 40, you've probably already made the majority of the compounding decisions that will determine your ending. The big question isn't whether you can find more good ideas. It's whether you can keep your hands off the ones you've already found. The difference between someone who gets rich and someone who stays busy is almost never about finding one more great investment. It's about not interrupting the 3 great investments they already own. Framework, the Munger method to keep compounding intact. We'll build the framework in 5 pillars. Each comes straight out of Munger's worldview and gets wired to one job: don't interrupt compounding. 1. Invert, study failure. First, invert, always invert. It's a mathematician's trick that Munger made into a life habit. Instead of asking, how do I get rich? Ask, how do I guarantee I'll break compounding? Answer that, then do the opposite. Munger's famous graduation talk was entirely about how to guarantee misery, pick up vices, envy others, stew in resentment, and be unreliable. That's not just life advice. It's a financial operating manual. Envy makes you chase others' trades. Resentment makes you dump a great business at the first drawdown. Unreliability makes you deviate from your own rules. Each of these behaviors is a crowbar prying apart compounding. So we start here in reverse. List the failure modes: constant tinkering, copying the crowd, abandoning a plan under pressure, and strip them out. 2. Build a lattice work, not a hunch. Munger's first rule of worldly wisdom: isolated facts aren't knowledge. You need a latticework of models, from math, psychology, and microeconomics to hang reality on. Practically, for investors, that means understanding a few crucial ideas: cold, compound interest, basic probability, incentives, economies of scale, backup systems, and breakpoints. This isn't academic ornament. It's how you resist being yanked around by headlines. Why it protects compounding. Models replace panic. When you know, for example, that strong economies of scale can lock in durable advantages, think global distribution, you're less likely to dump a great compounder because a quarter was soft. You have a model saying, the moat's still there. 3. Bet seldom, then bet heavy when the odds are clear. Munger's racing analogy continues. The winners don't bet constantly. They bet rarely and load up only when they have the odds. In markets, that looks like extreme selectivity and patience, exactly the opposite of trend chasing. He's been clear that most of Berkshire's billions trace back to a small handful of big insights over a lifetime. You don't need dozens every quarter. You need a few, and then you need to sit. Why it protects compounding: fewer, better decisions mean fewer chances to interrupt the process. Every move is an opportunity to incur spread, commissions, and taxes, and an opportunity to be wrong. Fewer moves, better odds, more compounding left undisturbed. 4. choose quality businesses, and then mostly hold. Munger is blunt. We've really made the money out of high-quality businesses, often by buying great companies and letting time do the heavy lifting. Consider Berkshire's purchase of the Washington Post in the 1970s. They bought it at a fraction of estimated private value in a two-newspaper town that logic said would collapse into one. Over time, that investment went to many dozens of times their cost. Not through endless rotations, but through intelligent selection and not interrupting the outcome as it unfolded. On top of that, Munger highlights brands with global distribution and pricing power. Coca-Cola, Gillette, where scale and habit form a quiet snowball. In some countries, Gillette captures the overwhelming majority of shaving. With Coca-Cola, distribution nearly everywhere on Earth reinforces loyalty. Again, pick excellence, then let compounding do its work. 5. Fix incentives or be ruled by them. Here's a paradox Munger spells out. What's rational for an investor to buy great businesses and mostly do nothing is often irrational for an investment manager who can't get paid for sitting. I don't sell to fish, says the tackle salesman. Managers sell activity because clients buy activity. Result churn, your compounding gets interrupted to satisfy someone else's paycheck. Munger even notes that in the aggregate, investment management adds no value to all buyers combined, because it must be so. That's a sober constraint, not a conspiracy. Why it protects compounding. Aligning incentives means choosing structures and people who get paid to be patient and rational, not noisy. Rehook. Let's rehook the core idea to your 40-plus reality. You do not need to know everything every day. That's a recipe for churn. You need, as Munger says, to work hard and be ready for a few insights, then live off the compounding those few insights purchase. Berkshire didn't become Berkshire by tinkering hourly. It became Berkshire by waiting for clear asymmetry and then protecting it from interruption, resisting social proof, resisting the urge to fiddle, resisting the wrong incentives. Here's something that surprises people. The hardest part isn't finding compounding. It's leaving it alone. Your brain is wired for action. The financial media is wired for urgency. Your brokerage app is wired to make trading feel easy and smart. Everything around you is designed to interrupt compounding, to make you feel like not doing something is a mistake. That's why this next section matters. It's where philosophy becomes plumbing. Mid-episode reminder. If this is landing, hit like. Comment your biggest interrupter to compounding. Is it envy? Boredom? Incentives? I read every comment on this channel, and I'm genuinely curious which of Munger's failure modes hits hardest for you. And subscribe. We're building a community of people who want to think clearly about money instead of just react to noise. Next week, we're doing a deep dive on the behavioral traps that turn smart people into busy, poor investors. You don't want to miss it. Application: a practical over 40 game plan. This is where we turn Munger's philosophy into a weekly system. The goal isn't cinematic heroics. It's reliable, boring execution, the kind that compounding loves. Step 1, do an inversion audit. 15 minutes once. Pull up a blank page. Title it, How I Guarantee I'll Break Compounding. Write down your top 5 behaviors. Examples translated from Munger's Misery Talk. Envy, buying because someone else is up big this month. Resentment, selling a long-term winner because the stock owes me after a dip. Unreliability, setting rules, then breaking them under stress. Non-learning, refusing to study past mistakes and better models. Substance shortcuts, anything that dulls thinking under pressure. Keep this list visible. Your job isn't to be perfect. Your job is to not do these 5 things while compounding does its job. Step 2. Write your lattice work on 1 page. Munger's lattice work of models is vast, but you can capture the essentials you'll actually use. Compound interest, gains on gains, basic probability, expected value equals odds times payoff. Pari-mutual logic. Most prices are efficient-ish. Your edge is in rare mispricings. Economies of scale, cost, distribution, and brand advantages widen moats. Incentives. Behavior follows paychecks. Breakpoints and critical mass. Nonlinear effects matter. Momentum compounds. You don't need to memorize these, you need to apply them. If a decision doesn't connect to at least 2 models on your page, you probably don't have an insight, you have a hunch. Hunches are where compounding goes to die. Step 3, choose to be a low-friction investor. The stock market's house handle is low if you don't trade too actively. So engineer low friction, concretely reduce transaction count. Fewer trades equals fewer spreads and fewer mistakes. Hold periods measured in years, not weeks. Think in business outcomes, not quotes. Automate where reasonable to avoid tinkering. Prefer simplicity. A small basket of excellent businesses is enough to get rich and stay sane. Your edge, in other words, is not interrupting your own edge. Step 4. Define what quality means before you look at tickers. Steal Munger's filters for a high-quality business. Durable advantages of scale. Global distribution that's hard to replicate. Pricing power. Can raise prices without losing customers. Think Disney parks, Coca-Cola, See's candies. Munger calls out pricing power explicitly. Management quality, competent, honest leaders. He contrasts well-run with poorly run firms to show it matters. Market structure, businesses tending toward a single dominant winner, like the 2 newspaper towns collapsing into one. The Washington Post example threads these criteria: a temporarily hated market, a clear structural winner, high integrity leadership, bought at a severe discount. Then, this is the key, you hold long enough for the many multiples outcome to show up. Many investors buy right and then cut the flower to water the weeds. Don't interrupt it. Step 5. Align incentives so you're not paying for churn. Munger's fishing tackle parable is devastating. When asked about garish lures, the salesman said, "I don't sell to fish. Much of active management sells to clients, not results. Managers need to do something, and that something is frequently the enemy of compounding." He observes that in aggregate, investment management cannot add value to all buyers combined. Don't swim upstream against arithmetic. Either choose structures where doing less is paid, or at least tolerated, or choose to run your own money with this in mind. Step 6. Embrace few insights and institutionalize waiting. The way to win is to work hard and be ready for a small number of truly mispriced bets. That demands two things: patience, long stretches of not acting, and preparedness. When the rare fat pitch comes, you swing hard.
To make that real, codify 2 rules.
No, because board trades. Size up when your models all rhyme. When quality, price, incentives, and structure line up, that's your cue to allocate meaningfully. Then you go back to step 3. Protect compounding by doing nothing. Step 7. Normalize volatility so it doesn't scare you into resets. Munger shrugs at volatility. He cares about eventual outcomes, not smooth ride quality. The market will offer you a bumpy path. That's not a moral failing. It's the fee. If you judge every dip as failure, you'll keep resetting your compounding by selling winners low and buying something new high. Build a ritual. When you feel the itch to act, write a 1-paragraph pre-mortem. If I sell this compounder now and I'm wrong, what exactly is the cost in 10 years? That question is a compounding preservative. Step 8. Use social proof as a red flag, not a green light. Munger ties social proof to scale advantages. We copy others. Distribution wins because we do. That's reality. But for your decisions, treat social proof. It's everywhere on FinTwit as a warning that you might be outsourcing your thinking. If your thesis doesn't survive alone with your lattice work, it won't survive a bad quarter either. Don't interrupt compounding by letting a chorus sing you into or out of positions you haven't actually understood. Step 9. Institutionalize reliability. In his Misery speech, Munger argues unreliability can overwhelm all your virtues. Be unreliable, and you will be outrun by hordes of mediocre turtles. In money terms, unreliable investors halt compounding with rule breaking, make reliability boringly automatic. Calendar a quarterly review, not daily. Pre-commit to metrics that would actually break your thesis, e.g. moat erosion, not price levels. Write and sign a 1-page investment owner's manual, what you do, why, and what you refuse to do. Reread it before any trade.
Step 10. Case file your own Post, Coke, Gillette, Trio.
You don't need Berkshire's scale, but you can steal its pattern. Find a structurally advantaged business, distribution, habit, network, or legal moat. Pay a rational price. It doesn't have to be 20% of private value, but discount to value helps. Verify honest, competent managers.
Wait. Write 3 live candidates that fit your circle of competence. Make the expectation realistic. You may never get a once in 40 years post-level result, and that's fine. You don't need it to take care of you. What you do need is to stop ripping the plant out of the soil to check the roots every week.
Examples. Working theories, not promises. Let's translate the framework into 3 stylized examples to show how compounding is kept intact. These are models, working theories, illustrating Munger's thinking, not predictions. The global distributor. A company with near ubiquitous distribution, Munger's Coca-Cola illustration, modest unit price, and sticky habit. If the business can raise prices a touch without losing customers, because the experience is part product, part ritual, that's pricing power. The investor bet is simple. Own it. Let demand and population do some work, and avoid the urge to sell because a quarter hiccuped. Interruptions to compounding would be panic selling, sector rotation, or copying a loud bear case without any new model-level information.
The one newspaper town.
A business in a market trending toward one dominant winner, Munger's two newspaper into one. The compounding engine is share consolidation and operating leverage. The investor action, buy when value to price, is wildly asymmetric, and let time compress that gap. The interruption risk, getting spooked by early stage volatility and bailing before the structural endgame plays out. Missing the compounding that makes the whole bet make sense. The fixed up gem. Geico-style cancer surgery turnarounds, where a wonderful core is submerged under fixable folly. The compounding shows up only after the folly is cut away. The interruption risk is activity itself. If you're conditioned to trade instead of own, you'll churn right as the fix yields the multi-year march. Inversion, again, how to ruin it, on purpose. Let's deliberately design failure so you can recognize it in the wild trade often. Treat the market like a racetrack, ignoring that stock spreads and commissions are low. Only if you don't make them high by overtrading. Copy the room. Use social proof as research, not a warning. Pay for churn. Hire people whose business model is activity, then demand activity. Break your own rules. Be unreliable. Munger says that one habit can counterbalance all your virtues, feed envy and resentment until they drive timing decisions. Refuse to learn from others' failures. Insist on paying full tuition personally. If any of this sounds uncomfortably familiar, great. You've just found gears that were grinding your compounding to dust. Checklist, print this. Munger-ish, compounding preservation checklist. Inversion. Have I listed the ways I'm likely to break compounding in this decision? Models. Which two or more latticework models support this move? If none, no trade. Selectivity. Is this one of my few lifetime insights or just noise? If it's noise, pass. Quality. Does this business have scale advantages and or pricing power? Coke/Gillette style cues. Incentives. Whose paycheck benefits from me acting here? If it's not mine, pause. Friction. How many separate frictions, spreads, fees, taxes, errors, will this action introduce? Is that worth it? Hold bias. If I already own a quality compounder, what thesis breach, not price, justifies selling? Volatility. Am I mistaking a bumpy path for a broken story? Reread the thesis. Reliability. Did I follow my owner's manual this quarter? If not, what guardrail failed? Few big bets. If this is a fat pitch, am I sizing it so success matters? Brief coda. At 40 plus, you don't need fireworks. You need fidelity to a few good ideas held for a long time. Munger's message isn't glamorous. It's sterner and far more liberating. Build a lattice work so you can tell signal from noise. Be the person who bets rarely and sizes up when the odds are unmistakable. Own quality and wait. Fix incentives so patience is possible. And every time your hands itch for activity, invert. How would I break compounding here? Then don't do that. And
If you found this useful, comment with your compounding interrupter and subscribe. Next up, we're unpacking the behavioral traps that turn smart people into busy, poor investors and wiring in simple antidotes. See you then. Let me land this one more time because it's the hinge everything turns on. The difference between people who build real wealth and people who stay on the hamster wheel isn't intelligence. It's not information advantage or access to insider deals or some magic formula nobody knows. It's this. They learn to make a few great decisions, and then they learn to stop interrupting them. That's not easy. Your brain is built to fidget. The media is built to scare you into selling. Every app on your phone is designed to make you think inaction is a mistake. But it's not. In most cases, inaction is the only correct move. Munger's entire career proves this. He didn't get rich by constantly repositioning. He got rich by waiting for rare clarity, then having the discipline to sit with it. And yes, discipline is the word. This isn't inspiration. This isn't think positive and wealth will follow. This is the work of building real frameworks, so your thinking survives when the market is screaming at you. That's what we do here. Every episode, we take one of Munger's core principles: how incentives corrupt judgment, why social proof ruins decisions, how to spot the difference between price and value, and we build a system you can actually live with. Not a slogan, a system. If this framework landed for you today, here's what moves the needle. Like this video. Not as a favor to me, but as a signal to YouTube that you want more of this kind of thinking in your feed. Comment below. Tell me, what's the one area where you keep interrupting compounding? Is it investments, career moves, relationships, habits? I read every comment. And your answer helps me know what to cover next. And subscribe. We drop a new framework every week. Same quality, same depth. Built on primary sources. Munger's actual words, not secondhand takes. You've spent 20 minutes here. Make it matter. Hit that subscribe button. Bring the people you care about into this community. We're building something different here. A place where people think clearly instead of just reacting to noise. See you next time.